Merry Christmas, dear friends. Hello to everyone. Please let me know if you can hear me. I'm waiting a few seconds for you. There is a little delay between the sound and the picture, so hope that everything will be fine. And this webinar will be about the upcoming 2018. Thanks so much for letting me know, Sana. Okay, so it looks like everything is fine. And we are going to talk about the upcoming 2018, the most important astrological events. Of course, you know that there are many things happening on a daily basis. And we're going to concentrate actually on the more significant events. I will try to make it as useful as possible for you, hopefully not too long and not too overwhelming with too much information. But I also have prepared something as a gift for you guys. I have a free calendar for 2018, which includes the retrograde and direct motion of the planets, because you know that during 2018 there will be many retrograde phases of the planets. So I think that it might be useful for you. I will put the link in the description after the webinar is over. So for those who are watching the recording, they should find the link in the description below. And just let me put for you guys now the link here. Those who are live with me now should be able to download the calendar from this link. Okay. So, as I said, we are going to concentrate mostly on the retrograde phases of the planets and also on the ingressions. So, you know that there are some planets which will change their signs, and we're going to talk about it. If anyone also can confirm that everything is okay with the link, please just let me know in the comments. Hopefully it's fine. And 2018 looks like will be very interesting. The most important things, we have both Venus and Mars going retrograde. And you know that it's not like, oh, really? It says page not found. Okay, that's strange. Okay, anyway, if there is a problem right now, I will put the link in the description, so you will be able to download it later if it's not working right now. So anyway, okay, Ellie says it's fine. Okay, so maybe you can try again. All right, and we have, as I said, both Venus and Mars going retrograde, and we also have Uranus changing the sign. We have Jupiter and the nodes changing their signs. And finally, we're going to talk also about Mercury. You know that Mercury goes retrograde very often. Very strange. Why the page is not found? Let me see again, but it should be live. It should be public. Very strange. Anyway, you will have the link later. Oh, okay. YouTube disables links in the chat. Okay, sorry, guys. So you will find the link later in the description. Thank you so much for letting us know, Jerry. Okay. Yeah, we'll do it afterwards. So we are talking about Venus and Mars and Mercury and Uranus and Jupiter and the lunar nodes. I will share my screen so that you will be able to see just a quick picture for the how the calendar will look like actually. Just let me find. Okay, I think that now you should be able to see. So this is how the calendar looks like. Basically, you have all of the planets, and month by month, day by day, and the direction of the planets. Of course, you know that the sun and the moon are always moving direct, but anyway, I have put it so it's clear for everyone. And all of the other planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they have their specific retrograde cycle. And for Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, they are retrograde each year for between 4 and 6 months. So it's not such a big deal if Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto are retrograde. In some cases, it may have some kind of impact, but it's not so significant. Jupiter and Saturn also, they're approximately retrograde for 4 months, but for Mercury, Venus, and Mars, it's actually very important. And you will find all of that information in this calendar later. So let's start with Mercury. I will be very quick about Mercury because it happens very often and we are more familiar with that. I will give you the dates, but you will be able to find them later as well, so that it's more convenient for you and you don't have to remember everything. Let me see. So first we have Mercury retrograde in March, on the 23rd of March until the 14th of April. Mercury will be retrograde. Then it happens again in July. On the 26th of July, Mercury is retrograde until the 18th of August. And for the third time, Mercury will be retrograde from the 17th of November until the 6th of December. You know that Mercury can be retrograde 3 or 4 times a year. It depends. And it's something which we are more familiar with. It's very often, and Mercury retrograde is a very popular topic, so we have heard about it a lot. And the most important to remember is actually that you should avoid starting some things which are related to the Mercury areas, like something, for example, traveling. You have to be very careful. Contracts, starting a new job and career. Or planning something which you are doing for the very first time. This is actually the most important, to avoid starting something new which you haven't done before and which is actually very important to you. Also, buying some more expensive stuff you should avoid when Mercury is retrograde, because you can get misled about something. For example, very often it might break, or it's not what you have expected, or the quality is not so good, or there are mistakes very often. If you order something online on Mercury retrograde, it's very often, it's very possible that they will, there will be a mistake. They can send you something which you haven't ordered. It's very typical for Mercury. So we have to remember, of course, don't make from this such a big deal. It's not like the world will stop, and we have to stop doing everything. We just have to be more careful. Of course, something I want to mention here, the ruler of your sign, especially of the ascendant, is very important, and you should always analyze this. I mean, you should watch if it's visible or invisible. Also the direction. If it's retrograde, you will feel the influence stronger than the other signs. So for example, with Mercury, if you are a Virgo or a Gemini rising, Mercury retrograde is actually very important, and you should be more careful than all of the other people. And the same is with Venus and Mars. I will talk about it in a little bit, but it's really important always to check what's happening with the ruler of your ascendant. First of all, in your birth chart, the transits, the progressions, even the solar arc directions, everything, what's happening with the ruler of your ascendant. And also in the skies, is it retrograde or not? Are there any challenging aspects? everything can be important. So with Mercury, I think it's pretty much clear. And you should remember that, you know, things need to be planned in advance. You can expect some mistakes, or you can forget about something. Communication, usually there are some kind of challenges, like, for example, the internet connection, everything related to devices like computers, smartphones, everything nowadays, everything technical actually can be broken or may not work properly, and you should avoid buying those stuff. Debbie says, should we pay more attention with the traditional ruler or the modern ruler? I think that the traditional ruler can be more important to you. Debbie is asking, for example, if you are a Scorpio rising, what's more important to analyze, Pluto or Mars? I think that Mars can be more important. For Pisces, for example, Jupiter can be more important than Neptune. And well, we also have Aquarius. So for Aquarius, also Saturn can be more important for Uranus. But you always have to analyze everything. It might be different for the different people. So yeah, with Mercury, I think it's clear. It's something, you know, Mercury is not so stressful because it happens every year 3 or 4 times, and there is like it's like a regular cycle, and we more or less we are prepared for that. So it's not such a big problem. Now, next we have, so I will change the order, and we are going to talk about Mars. Okay, so because Mars will be retrograde first. Let me check the exact day, so which you will be able to find later as well. It was around the end of June. Mars will be retrograde. It was 20 something, 27th of June. Also something else I want to mention. Always you should pay more attention on the stationary phases of the planets. The stationary phase is the exact moment when the planet is changing the direction, when it is changing from direct to retrograde, or the opposite, from retrograde to direct. Usually these are a few days, like 1, 2, 3 days. For the slower planets like Neptune and Pluto, sometimes this phase can be up to 4 or 5 days. It means that actually the planet is moving really, really slow, and for a certain moment it stops moving. It stays on the same degree for 1, 2, 3 days, and then it changes in the opposite direction. And the main idea is that on the stationary phases, the energy is very, very strong. For example, the biggest complications with Mercury retrograde can happen on a stationary Mercury. So at the very beginning or the very end of the retrograde phase. So always pay attention on these phases for all of the planets. And here I would say that for Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus, the stationary phases can be extremely important. And for example, Pluto is retrograde for a few months, so it doesn't mean that everything which is related to Pluto and Scorpios, and you know, where you have Pluto transiting in your horoscope, everything will be upside down. It doesn't mean that. But on the stationary phases, you should pay more attention. You know, something might happen. Of course, it depends on the nature of the planet, but we should be much more careful around these phases. Okay, so back to Mars. As I said, Mars will be retrograde during 2018, beginning on the 27th of June for approximately 2 months, so until the 27th of August. And Mars is retrograde once in 2 years for approximately 2 months every time. And this is why we are not so used to this cycle. So it might be more surprising, it might be more stressful. And you know that Mars is the planet, you know, which can bring some complications. Of course, like every planet and everything in astrology, it may have very positive influences, but there might be also some challenges. And with Mars, it's like, you know, you want to do something, but it doesn't move in the right direction. So things can be quite complicated. Let me see. So Mars will be stationary on the 10th degree in Aquarius. So this is on the 20 something of June. And then it will go retrograde. So from the 10th degree of Aquarius, it will go back to the 28th degree of Capricorn. So if you have your sun or ascendant or another planet or even a cusp of a house in this degree, so from the 28th degree Capricorn to the 10th degree Aquarius, you should be very careful, especially when Mars makes the exact aspect with your planet or cusp of a house, because there might be some kind of stress for you. And Mars is moving much slower than in the usual motion when it is direct. So these aspects, they last longer than usual, and that's why they can be more stressful. So you have to be careful. So again, I repeat, from the 28th degree of Capricorn to the 10th degree of Aquarius. This is basically the part of the zodiac. These 12 degrees, Mars will go through them for 3 times. So 1 time direct, then retrograde, then direct again. And of course, for Aquarius and Capricorns, which are born at the very end of the sign or have their ascendant in the very last degrees of Capricorn, they will feel the influence very strong, and it might be stressful. You know that with Mars, there might be, some confrontations, some unexpected things. Basically, it could be a stressful aspect. The positive side of the retrograde phases, and this is for every planet, so for Mercury and Venus and Mars, the positive manifestation is that you will be able to, you might be able actually to restart something. So if you have started doing something and you have, postponed it, or it didn't work for you, or something happened and it's in the past and you have forgotten maybe, when Mars is retrograde or any of the other planets are retrograde, you can restart something. And this is the positive manifestation. So of course, Aquarius, and especially those with their ascendant or sun in the first 10 degrees, they will feel very strong the influence of this transit. And as I said, Capricorns who are born at the very end. And let me see, what else do we have? Something else I would like to mention. You can go back to the last time when Mars was retrograde and analyze or try to remember at least what has happened and how you have felt. The last time Mars was retrograde was in 2016, sometime in April, May, and June. So if you can remember how you have felt, it might be something similar. Of course, it's not the same because Mars is in a different sign and house, but you may have like you can remember something about this period. And the other thing also is that basically we can all feel the influence of Mars retrograde, but in a different way, depending on the sign and the house, basically the house which it will transit in our horoscope. So look at your chart. I'm using Placidus house system. You can use whatever works for you. But just find where you have these degrees. So from the 28th degree of Capricorn to the 10th degree in Aquarius, Mars will go retrograde there, and you should be more careful with starting new projects, possible confrontations with other people, because everything might be more challenging than usual. Something else I want to mention is also to find which houses are ruled by Mars in your horoscope. You know that Mars rules Scorpio and Aries. So find which houses are ruled by this, where exactly you have these signs, because in this life Aries, it's not recommendable to start new things. And I can give you a personal example. The cusp of my 10th house is in Aries. Basically, I have intercepted sign there, Aries. And I married on Mars retrograde. It was years ago, I didn't understand astrology back then, so I got married on during Mars retrograde. On the next Mars retrograde, which was after 2 years, as usual, I separated with my husband, and 10th house is not about your marriage like a relationship, but it's your social status, and it's very important for marriage as well. So you need to uh, you know your social status can be changed, but it may not be permanent. It might be for a while, and you have to be careful. So my point is that you have to find where you have Aries and Scorpio, and be careful what you're about to start during the retrograde phase of Mars. Uh, Guys, please, can you write in the chat if you can see me? I'm not sure if my camera is working. So if anyone can just write me in the comments, in the chat, please. Okay, okay, great. Thank you so much. So I think that this is the most important for Mars. Also, we should remember that Mars will make square with Uranus when it is retrograde. And this can also be a very stressful transit. So that's why the influence might be, challenging, something surprising might happen. And, it's just a stressful transit. Even for some accidents, it's more dangerous combination. Mars retrograde squared by Uranus. It's just, more difficult. So after that, Mars goes direct. Let me see again. It was something like the 28th, the 28th of August, Mars goes direct again. And after that, things can be, easier. Also, something else for Aquarius, when Mars is retrograde in Aquarius, usually Aquarius is a very impatient sign. Mm, and very often, for example, people with Mars in Aquarius, they are acting on influence by their impulses. They can start something very passionately, and they might be really impatient to do something, and after that they stop doing it, and they start doing something else. So they're not consistent, usually, people with Mars in Aquarius. So when Mars is retrograde in Aquarius, we have to be careful and try to work with our impatience. So it's possible that we might be really in a hurry to do something, to have results, to be active, but things are not working as fast as we want them. And the last few days, the last period, actually, not few days, the last period, Mars will be retrograde in Capricorn, and this is the sign of its exaltation. So Mars will be very strong there, and you should be very, try to be more in control, to take control over your actions, to plan everything, not to hurry. Mars retrograde in Capricorn requires a lot of patience. So just something to, be prepared. Now let's move to Venus. Venus will be retrograde during 2018 as well, and I'm checking the exact dates. Okay, so from the 6th of October, Venus turns retrograde until the 15th of November. Approximately 40 days. Venus is retrograde once in a year and a half, so once in 18 months. So again, it's not like Mercury, it's not something which happens very often, so it's more challenging. But I also want to mention that Venus is a positive planet. Each planet can be positive, but Venus is considered to be one of the benefics in astrology. So even when it's retrograde, it's not so difficult. It's not so, so stressful, like Mars retrograde, for example, squaring your sun or making conjunction with your sun. With Venus, it's not the same. Of course, there might be challenges in the area of relationships and partnerships, because you know that Venus is related to that. Something I would highly recommend you: avoid getting married on Venus retrograde for everyone. Probably not everyone who gets married on Venus retrograde will get divorced. Of course, we can't say that, but the chances are not good. And I think that even if it's not about divorce later, it's about some kind of, like there is a hole between you and your partner, and you can't understand each other, and there is not no harmony. So generally, I would recommend to everyone to avoid getting married on Venus retrograde. Of course, relationships as well. Mm, Sometimes it's not something which we can plan. It's not like the marriage, but starting a relationship on Venus retrograde may also be, something which is temporary. That's the challenge with the retrograde planets, that you start something or you're planning something and later it all changes. So generally, we can say that Venus retrograde is not a good period for starting new relationships. Also, those who have their sun or especially the ascendant in Taurus or Libra should be more careful during Venus retrograde. Not careful like there is a danger of happening, something bad might happen, but like things may not be so smooth for you and everything that you would like to start. So Taurus and Libra may feel stronger this influence. Also, if you have, I'm not sure, I think I didn't mention the degrees. So Venus will be retrograde from the 11th degree of Scorpio and will go back to the 26th degree of Libra. So if you have Sun, ascendant, another planet, or even a cusp of a house between the 26th degree of Libra and the 11th degree of Scorpio, you can feel, the influence in this area of your life. There is an interesting question. What about if your Venus is retrograde in the birth chart? This is an interesting topic. I think that for you, this might be a positive period. If Venus is retrograde in the birth chart, it's like what what's natural for you. But even in this case, what about your partner? Probably we can't be sure, but if he doesn't have Venus retrograde in his birth chart, there is still a problem. So, of course, we have to analyze the situation and everything else, but generally, Venus retrograde is not a good period for getting married. So, as I said, you need to find where you have these degrees from the 26th degree of Libra to the 11th degree in Scorpio. And in this area of your life, which is represented by the house, things may not be so smooth for you. Again, you can change something. For example, I remember uh, when Venus was retrograde in my 10th house, which is about your work and career, I redesigned my website a few times, and it was, very complicated. I changed it a few times and I'm still changing. So, you know, it's when where you have Venus retrograde, things may not be so smooth. I repeat again, it's not about something dangerous happening to you or even some significant losses. I don't think that only Venus retrograde can bring such problems. But anyway, things are not so smooth. They are not so harmonious. Generally, in the area of relationships, things might be more challenging. And Venus in Scorpio, basically at the very first phase of the retrograde period, Venus will be retrograde in Scorpio. And this is the sign of its detriment position, which means the weakest possible position for Venus. So it might be extremely complicated and challenging for us on an emotional level. You know that Scorpio is always about the drama, and they can Venus in Scorpio can be quite challenging in the birth chart. And of course, in the transit sometimes. But if Venus is retrograde in Scorpio, we have to be more careful. After that, it goes back to Libra, which is so interesting because Libra is the sign of its rulership. So, it changes. I think that it will be the easier part of the transit when Venus is retrograde in Libra. So we are more capable of controlling our emotions. They're not so painful, or we don't get so easily insulted by others. So probably the last period will be easier than the beginning of the retrograde phase. And yeah, and of course, the most important is to find where Venus will transit in your horoscope and the major aspects with the planets. This will be really important to understand what you can expect. And as usual, the positive manifestation is about restarting something. So, for example, if you want to restart a relationship, Venus retrograde is fantastic transit for you. Especially if it's in the personal houses like fifth or seventh house transiting retrograde, then you can restart a relationship, or at least you can meet with someone who used to be your partner or your friend anyway. Or if Venus is retrograde in your sixth house, then you can restart or go back to a job that you have left, or restart some business projects. This is the best thing actually, to look at the past and to try to analyze it, to separate with the things which are no useful for you, and maybe even something which is painful, just to separate with the past. And if there is something valuable, then you can restart it. Only the valuable things needs to be kept. And after that, if you restart them, things might be much smoother than they used to be if you restart them on Venus retrograde. So there might be some pleasant surprises as well. Okay, so let me see if that. I think that's the most important about Venus. Just to find the major aspects that Venus will make with your personal planets and cusps of houses, and also if there are major which houses will be transited by Venus. Okay, let me see. So we talked about Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Now we can talk about Jupiter. Jupiter will be in Scorpio most of the year. And of course, you need to find where in your horoscope you have Scorpio. In this area, you can benefit more, and something positive might happen for you, like new opportunities and, just more abundance, and sometimes support from other people. So just find where in the birth chart you have Scorpio. Of course, the water and the earth signs can benefit a little bit more than the other signs, because Jupiter will make positive aspects to your signs, and this is even more supporting than for the other people. But we all can benefit. You only need to find where Jupiter is transiting in your birth chart, and just try to focus there, try to start something, maybe to learn something which is related to this area of your life, because it might be really beneficial for you later. And let me see, so on the 8th of November, Jupiter will enter Sagittarius, and it will stay there for approximately 1 year, which of course is great for everyone who have their sun or ascendant sign in Sagittarius, and for all other people and the house where they have Sagittarius in the horoscope. In this area you can benefit, and it will be more interesting than usual, because Jupiter is ruling Sagittarius, so it will be especially strong and supportive when it's in the sign of its rulership. So it might be really, really interesting. The other thing which I'm really curious to see how, will manifest is in terms of social activities and social projects, because after Jupiter enters Sagittarius, we said it will be in the sign of its rulership. And we also have Saturn in Capricorn, the sign of its rulership as well. And Saturn will stay there for basically until the end of 2020. During 2020, it will go back for a while in Aquarius. But anyway, during 2018 and 2019, Saturn is in Capricorn. And it will be interesting to see the two social planets, Jupiter and Saturn, in the signs of their rulerships. I think that for social activities, for career, uh, even topics related to politics, I'm not interested in that. I don't make, political forecasts or analysis. So, I won't talk about any famous people from that perspective, but I think that on the political stage in general, topics related to society, there might be some really interesting events happening when both of the social planets are in the signs of their rulerships. And on a personal level, for the normal people like you and me, I think that if you want to start something related to career and work and some social activities, I think that this should be a very beneficial time. But again, you have to find where in your horoscope you have Sagittarius and, of course, Capricorn for the transit of Saturn. So, but as I said, this is by the end of the year. In November, Jupiter will enter Sagittarius. So about Saturn, I already mentioned, and I think that most of you know that Saturn is already in Capricorn. Basically, a few days ago, it entered Capricorn during December 2017. So we are starting to feel the influence. I have videos about the transit of Saturn in Capricorn for each of the zodiac signs. So if you have missed that, you can go to my channel and just find your sun and ascendant sign, and you can understand how Saturn can influence you when it is in Capricorn. So I won't talk about it so much. Of course, for career, for social achievements, for projects, this is a very supportive transit. And Saturn is one of the most interesting planets. It's considered to be one of the malefic planets, so planet which can bring you challenges and difficulties and sometimes even problems and losses. But on the other hand, it might bring you stability, some serious results. You can create some structures. For work, it might be a fantastic transit. And people might wonder, well, how to understand, how they are going to feel with this transit. I think that in this case, you need to analyze your birth chart and also your personality. They are related, of course, because it depends on how you are using this energy. For example, if you're a Saturn friendly person who is, very constant, very grounded, and you like to work, you are consistent, and you're patient and you can wait for the results, then Saturn can reward you. Saturn can bring you success, and you can achieve some stable things. So it might be a very actually productive time for you with Saturn in Capricorn. But if you're not very, if the Saturn energy is not very close to you, I mean, like, you are not so grounded and you want some easy and fast results and you don't like, to wait, then it might be challenging for you. So with Saturn in Capricorn, I think that we all should try to, respect this energy more. Saturn is extremely strong in Capricorn. So it's about, being very constant, being very patient and hardworking, and you know, just trying to do the best that we can. Yes, I'm a Capricorn. Yes, I have a stellium in Capricorn, so the Capricorn energy is very familiar for me. Yeah, people with. Hmm. So yeah, it's an interesting transit, definitely. And if you're, you know, if you respect this energy and if you're hardworking with Saturn, you always have to be hardworking. You know, that's something typical actually for the Capricorns. That's why they can, you know, get more from this transit because they are used to this. You know, if you're a Capricorn, I think you should be familiar with the fact that things don't come up so easy for you. You always have to wait and you have to be patient and you have to, you know, overcome challenges. So it's not something which you're not used to actually. So Saturn in Capricorn should be so scary for you. And everyone, as I said, who is willing to have stable results can benefit from Saturn in Capricorn. Okay, so next we have something which is or could be even more significant. We have Uranus entering Taurus, and you know that Uranus stays in one sign for approximately 7 years. So this is something big. Uranus entering Taurus, just let me check the exact date. So on the 15th of May, Uranus enters Taurus and it will stay there until the 6th of November. Then it will go back in Aries. It will be retrograde, of course. And until the end of 2018, it will be still in Aries. But anyway, I think that this will be the beginning of this very important transformational process. Of course, I can't say that it will change you know, our lives, at least not for everyone. Again, you have to find if Uranus will make a major aspect with one of your personal planets or cusps of houses. Mm, so let me see. Uranus will go in Taurus, I think, until the third degree. So if you have your Sun or another planet in the first, let's say, 5 degrees in Taurus, then you will feel the influence this year. If you are also if you are born from the 22nd of April, let's say, until the 27th of April, you will feel the influence of Uranus. Basically, Uranus will make conjunction with your Sun. So this will be a very, very important year. And this is something which probably most of us can experience only once in our life because it takes 84 years for Uranus to make the whole cycle in the zodiac. So, you know, if you want Uranus to return to the birth position in your chart, it will take 84 years. So, Uranus in conjunction with your Sun can only happen once in your life, unless in some cases you live more than 90 years, and not for everyone again, because Uranus has to be very close to the Sun. Anyway, most of us can experience this transit only once in their life. And that's why it's so significant. Of course, it's also about some drastic changes. Sometimes, of course, it might be, you know, something unexpected happening. Usually it's unexpected. Sometimes it might be stressful, especially if Uranus is making a square. And Uranus will make square with basically the fixed signs, Aquarius and Leo, and with Scorpio it will make opposition. So if you have any planet or cusp of a house in the first few degrees in the fixed signs, then you will feel this transit very strong and it might be quite challenging. But I really want you to understand something, and actually to explain to you that even the challenging aspects can be beneficial. For example, when Uranus was squaring my Mercury and after that my Sun, I started to learn astrology. Of course, in some life areas, this was a total mess, like even on an emotional, psychological level, it was a very challenging transit for me, which is something that you can't deny. But after that, I mean, the final result was actually extremely positive for me because I found the thing which is, um, I think, my life mission, the thing that I really love to do, and basically it turned out to be my career as well. So my point is that even the challenging aspects, even if they're stressful, something very positive might come up from all of this. So you should never, you know, first of all, you shouldn't be scared. Don't try to think about the worst possible scenarios. And I know people are different, and I know that sometimes you can get scared. Uranus can be quite scaring, but also it may bring you incredible freedom. You may do things that you haven't done before. Again, you have to find the major aspects. If you have, as I said, any planet in these degrees, then you might experience so much freedom and so much excitement in this area of your life. But just you have to be more open-minded. And here, it's also important. Actually, it's always important to analyze first the birth chart. You can't be accurate with your predictions if you don't understand the person and his horoscope. And what do I mean with that? For example, if the horoscope is very, as I use the expression, Saturn friendly, or someone who is, has a very strong Saturn, has many planets in Earth signs, it means usually that the person values very much stability, security. He likes the order. Even if it's boring, it's not so scary for him. The most important is to have control over the situation, to feel safe. And if that's the case, then the challenging aspects from Uranus can be very, very difficult because the person is not ready to make these changes. And that's why the circumstances can be more stressful, so that the person is pushed, you have to make these changes. And if you're resisting, it happens in the wrong, in the more difficult way. And the opposite, if the person has a strong Uranus in the horoscope, Uranus has positive aspects with the birth planets in the horoscope. Also, let's say the person has many planets in air signs, and usually, he's more adventurous type of person. He likes to try new things, to experiment. Then the transits from Uranus, even the squares and the oppositions, can be easier for that person, and he can react more, how to say, more positively on these transits. So before starting the predictions and trying to understand everything about transits, progressions, everything happening in your horoscope, you have to understand the person and his personality, which you can understand by the horoscope. This will tell you a lot about the possible way that the person will react to this transit, to any transit. Yeah, Uranus wants us to break out and break free. Yeah, very, very good way to say that. So Uranus in Taurus, it's about, trying new things. It's about experimenting. And as I said, it's not for everyone. If Uranus doesn't make any major aspects with your planets, it's not such a big change. But if it makes any aspects, major aspects especially, then it could be very, very important. Of course, Taurus will feel the influence really strong, especially, as I said, those born in the first days of the sign. Uh, Also, something I want to say, Venus retrograde, we already talked about it. When Venus is retrograde in October and November, it will make opposition with Uranus. And this might be a stressful transit. So this could be a time when we have to be more careful, especially if at the same time Venus makes and Uranus, of course, make some major aspects with your planet, then you have to be more careful. Some surprises are possible, unexpected things in the area of relationships, in the financial area. You know that Taurus and Scorpio, this is the axis which is related to resources. So with investments, you have to be careful. Something unexpected might happen. Sometimes it might be freeing and very positive, but probably it's difficult to predict. So just be careful with Venus retrograde in opposition with Uranus. Okay, and we have also the lunar nodes. And the lunar nodes will change their signs also. So most of the year, the north node is in Leo and the south node is in Aquarius. You know that the south and the north node stay in one sign for approximately 1 year and a half. So this is quite a long period. And you have to find which houses will be transited by the nodes. The north node, which is in Leo, is more related to the influence of Jupiter. So it's about some opportunities and even abundance and some positive things which might happen. So you have to concentrate. You can gain something. You can expand something where the North Node is transiting your horoscope. And the opposite, the South Node, is very close to Saturn. So it might bring some losses, or you have to separate with something, or you have to give up on something. And as usual, they are in opposition. So they activate one axis in the horoscope. So just an example, let's say that the north node is transiting your 10th house and the south node is transiting your 4th house. It means that you need to concentrate more on career, which is 10th house, and you can have some success and results, maybe even start your own business. And on the other hand, the south node in 4th house suggests that maybe you shouldn't focus so much on family and staying at home or in your private life. You have to be more active uh, from about your career and social activities. And the same is with all of the other combinations. So there is a house and life area where the north node is transiting, and in this area you can benefit, you should concentrate, and something positive might happen. And at the same time, where the south node is transiting, you need to give up on something. You shouldn't concentrate, you can separate with something. For example, let's say that the south node is transiting your second house. Second house is about money that you earn with your own efforts, your own personal belongings. Maybe you won't be so financially independent, which is just a suggestion because we have to see everything else. And everything else which is happening in the horoscope. But something which might help you is, for example, to throw away the stuff that you don't need, like the personal belongings, maybe some clothes or things which you are not using. So the south node transiting certain house in the horoscope shows where you need to separate with something, like separate with the past. So I will repeat again that most of the year, so until the 6th of November, the north node is in Leo, the south node is in Aquarius. So find where in your chart you have these signs. And after the 8th of November, the north node will enter Cancer and the south node will enter Capricorn. You know that the nodes are moving in the opposite direction. They're always retrograde, at least most of the time. Their normal motion is retrograde. So It's the same. After November, find where in the chart you have Cancer. In this area, you can benefit, you should concentrate. It's more positive to start things related to this house. And the South Node shows what you should give up from, or something which you can separate. So yeah, the South Nodes. There are, of course, eclipses, new moons, full moons. You know that I make regular videos about these events, so I can't include everything in this webinar. If you are not subscribed, you can subscribe to my channel, and I will make a video about each of these events separately, so you will be prepared. There are also some other stuff happening, but I think that these are the most important. So Mercury retrograde, which happens yearly actually, but most importantly, Venus and Mars retrograde during this year. Also, Jupiter entering the sign of its rulership by the end of 2018, and at the same time, Saturn in Capricorn. This has happened uh, during 1959. I'm sure that we have the same combination, and the year before or the year after that, so 1958 or 1960, we have the same combination: Jupiter in Sagittarius and Saturn in Capricorn. So I think that from a social perspective, this should be very interesting period, and people who are interested in having social success, they can benefit more from this combination. Okay, and we talked about Uranus and the node. So I think that these are the most important things. And okay, we managed to talk about it in less than an hour, so I think it's pretty good. If you have some comments, I will be so happy to read them actually. And I apologize again. Honestly, I didn't know that links in the chat don't work. So any minute after the webinar is over, I will edit the video, so you will be able to download this calendar, and you don't have to remember all of these. As you see, I don't remember the exact date, so I know that Mars is retrograde by the end of June, so it's 27, 28. You don't have to remember that. You can check the calendar and see for yourself. Ellie asks, does Mercury retrograde worsen if the planet is visible? I don't think so. No, I don't think that the visibility of the planet will make things worse. Please do more live videos. I promise I will do that, really. I'm planning on making some other events, so I will keep you updated. I'm not sure, did you guys receive some notifications in YouTube about the live event? Because I created it a few days ago, can't remember exactly, and I'm not sure if it sends any notifications to people so that they know that it will be. If anyone has seen something, maybe you can write it. So some people have. Mm-hmm. But do you see it in advance or at the very beginning of the webinar? This is something I'm not sure. Some people say that they receive my email. If you're subscribed to my newsletter, of course, I will always inform you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Someone asks about the aspects. I will have a surprise for you guys. So just, yeah, I have prepared something. Mm-hmm. 30 minutes before. Okay, maybe I think it's something about the settings of YouTube. Anyway, if you would like to receive these notifications, you can subscribe to my email newsletter. If you get the, if you get the, I think that there is an option on YouTube when you subscribe to a channel. There is something like a bell or something like that, and you can subscribe additionally to receive notifications about uploaded videos and live events, I think. Yeah, but I promise that next year I will make more live events on a regular basis. There will be concrete topics. I will make Q&As. So if I didn't answer some of your questions, I will definitely do that in another video. So yeah, just just join us next time. Yeah. hmm Okay, guys. So I think this was the really hope that it was helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to download the calendar. It should be ready in a few minutes after the uh, webinar is over. And I wish you all to have a wonderful new year. Yeah. Thanks for everyone who is watching my videos and everything. Thank you so much, guys. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, guys, and have a nice day. Bye.